bigotry was rapidly disappearing from the landscape, to the point that when Jeremy Lee Quinn and I were talking on our program,
remind our audience,
he is a freelance journalist who has been in all of the hotspots, including January 6th. He's a lefty anarchist, but anyway, a very good journalist. Was there on January 6th, actually went into the Capitol and observed it firsthand. Anyway, interesting guy. And he was describing, I think he was actually describing January 6th to me when I interviewed him. And he told me with some excitement that he had actually met a racist. Like a guy who was just admitting it and talking about, yeah, he didn't dig other races and all of this. And I was excited too, because neither of us had ever met one of these people in the wild, right? They're very rare.
And was he in a cage, or did you get to touch him?
Right. It was remarkable. He even had a sign. You could just find him in the crowd based on his sign.
I'm a racist.
Pretty much something to that
Find
effect.
me here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, there is something a little bit, I don't know, quaint about that if somebody is so off.
It's a living dodo bird.
Right, he's a living dodo. But anyway, so they are rare. But then you can hear the pearl clutching and fainting, couch reaching, and all of the stuff that people do because, of course, they know from personal experience just how much of this stuff is out there. No, you don't. What is out there still in large quantities is ignorance.
Absolutely.
Which is not the same thing as bigotry.
Yep.
Right? So anyway, we've been making that distinction for a long time. There's lots of ignorance. You and I have plenty of ignorance too, as does everybody else. But I'm not saying there's nothing to the accusation that I'm a racist. But yeah, I've got ignorance. And, I didn't grow up in anybody else's home. I didn't grow up in anyone else's culture. It's simply that. But then you make the next point, which is actually, though, racism is common. It's just back. That's what it is. It's a new kind. It's some sort of neo-bigotry, right? And I think that's the sticking point, is that now the racists look very different from what they once did. It's not that retro dude at the January 6th protest. It's some kind of new racism where the focuses are different. But nonetheless, it's, this obsession with race, right? Which de-individuates people and exposes people to, again, it's, it doesn't matter that you think you're doing it because you want to be good. The point is, no, you're separating us by race again, and you're taking away the thing that's key to being human and substituting something, grotesque that does, not
and
only
superficial, relatively superficial,
and there's no way it could possibly work. So actually, I did have a thought about how to deal.
Again, I imagine
with
you
these,
had many.
I had a few, but I thought this one was good. We'll see. So the idea is, how do you deal with these new racists, right? And so what I was thinking is, you just carry around with you for the moment that you need it, some saltines in a little packet, and then when you encounter one of these white folks that is now newly obsessed with race, you just say, cracker? My feeling is that would be, it's at least a conversation starter.
You at least might get a few gaskets blown.
They might blow
Human
a gasket.
gaskets.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. No, they could start
I don't know
blowing
where we
blues.
have our gaskets, actually. It's odd.
Human gaskets?
Yeah.
Oh, the blood-brain barrier. I think that's
probably it.
That's the
that
one.
is probably it.
Yep.
So COVID might have caused some gasket blowing.
a little gasket blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some haphazard repairs.
All right. So you also wanted to go somewhere else.
The shoe on the other foot thing.
Yeah.
So since we ended up in the public eye as a result of the unfortunate thing that happened at Evergreen to me and then to us, people have come to me regularly and they have basically said, I'm in a terrible situation. It's happening to me. What should I do? And it is clear that when somebody comes to me, they pretty much want to hear me say, okay, here's how you stand up to that. And I'm very reluctant to do this, right?
Especially if it's not someone you know.
Right.
And you don't know anything about all of their circumstances.
Right. Because what I know is that you and I landed on our feet, and we landed on our feet for lots of different reasons. We had a good support network. We did lose a bunch of friends, but there was enough there to escape the implosion of Evergreen and to make our way in the world in a different manner. I don't know that for anybody else.
Right.
And if somebody stands up to the mob because it's the right thing to do, and they lose their job and their family is imperiled or worse because of that catastrophe, then I don't want to be the one to say, yeah, it's cool to stand up to the mob, because as much as I think it's important that we stand up to mobs, it's not all look, if we hadn't landed on our feet, we at least have family, right? We have family, and it would have protected our children. Not everybody's in that spot. Right. So anyway, I've been very reluctant to give the advice that I know people want me to give. And other heterodox folks have often confronted me over this. Like, why won't you tell them what they want to hear? We need people to stand up. That's how we're going to defeat this thing.
If they're coming to you, you know what they want to hear.
Right. And I agree. We do need them to stand up. But it's my moral responsibility not to give somebody advice that would be good for me, but potentially bad for them in their situation. Right. So anyway, I have failed to deliver the advice that I know is probably for the global best, because it is interpersonally not fair to expose somebody to that. But this is the situation that you have found yourself in here, where somebody that you care very much about was taken as a hostage by a mob that had some power to do harm. And I see you going through exactly the various machinations over, the responsibility of, oh my God, I put this person in peril, right? And I will feel terrible if this...
By knowing that there are two sexes in animals.
Right, by doing your job.
Right.
Right.
But yes, no, and I said to them at some point, sort of in the middle of this, like, I don't think this is what you're thinking of doing. I don't think you want to do it. I don't think this is what you want to hear from me. This is mostly about me relieving pressure on myself. I need you to know that it's okay if you disavow me. Like and I, they didn't.
Of course,
they won't.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
they wouldn't. It was never a possibility.
But I just felt such. It's no longer just about me, and like this is so fundamentally the human condition.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't see this coming exactly because we went through this together. And so I felt I knew, and we had students, and there were effects on students, and like we were navigating all of that in real time. I didn't see this coming, where I felt both responsible to, while knowing that I was in no way responsible for the situation.
Right.
Responsible to the person, making sure that they didn't feel obligated to a sense to me to do something that was going to imperil lots of things. While also knowing, as did they, as everyone who can see this with any clarity, like, I'm not responsible for this thing. This is about the bigoted mob on the other side wielding power.
Yep. With some wiggle room over individual cases where somebody truly has extreme jeopardy. Yeah. I'm now seeing the situation differently, because I'm watching you make the arguments that I would make, and I'm watching you feel the responsibility that I would feel, and I feel very differently from the outside. And I think the key thing is, we know how this dynamic works. It's not like the first time anybody's seen this kind of mob. Right. We've seen this mob hundreds of times, right, in many different contexts. It's always the same, right? You apologize to it. Does it get placated? No, quite the opposite.
You give them an inch.
Right.
They take it all.
Second thing is, it is a contagious game theoretic object, right? Its purpose is to get you to back down so that it will move on to the next person. And the point is, by backing down, you fuel it. So in one sense, you've got a person who is confronted with an unfortunate mob, right? That person is in peril, and the instinct is, oh my goodness, to the extent that I'm responsible for you being confronted by a mob, I feel absolutely obligated to do everything I can to get you out from in front of that mob. However, if you do that, the mob comes for somebody else, right? And so...
And destroys all the good things.
Right, along the way. And so in some sense, we're dealing, it's 2023, right? This happened to us in 2017. We did stand strong, and we demonstrated how that could be done. And we were lucky to be in a position where we were comparatively well situated to do it. But we needed more people to do it in order that it wouldn't still be going on in 2023.
Yeah.
And so in some sense, I'm now looking back at the people who I was reluctant to say, no, actually, you really do have to stand up. People who, as you point out, came to me because that's what they wanted to hear. And given that they came to me and that's what they wanted to hear, I probably should have said it.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I think.
Okay.